So Nicole turned out to be a top tier support, and with her offering a wide range of utility and buffs to your teammates, it can be overwhelming to decide when you should get her and where you should actually use her for you to get the best value. In this video, I'll be helping you guys to craft a team for Nicole where she shines the best for you to gain the most value out of her. Before we continue that though, if you're trying to get Nicole or any of her teammates, it's gonna be quite hard to get enough primo gems, but I got the solution for you. You should head to U7Buy, your ultimate gaming hub for safe, fast, and cheap in-game top-ups, from Genshin Impact to all of your favorite titles. The Genshin Impact's direct top-up page lets you recharge instantly. Check this out for example. The 8,080 Genesis Crystals price on the official store is gonna be $99.99, which is so expensive. But on U7Buy, you notice that the storefront displays similar prices to the in-game store. But don't worry, the magic all happens in checkout. Once you click the Buy Now button, your total instantly drops to the actual discounted prices. And it can drop even more if you use my code Camilo. How to buy is also super easy. Just type your user ID, select your server and region, pay securely, and your account is going to be loaded instantly. It's that easy. Check the link in the description or the pinned comment to visit U7Buy, and remember to use my code Camilo for an extra 8% discount. Alright, so first of all, let's start off with what does Nicole provide for you, so we understand where you should use her. So first of all, Nicole is just going to be a sub DPS slash support slash buffer in general. That's going to be her role. And for the things she gives you, basically her elemental skill is going to be able to give attack to your whole team. So Nicole's going to give a team-wide attack buff. Not only the character on field, no, your whole team is going to get attack by Nicole activating her elemental skill. And they don't need to do anything. She just activates her skill and the whole team has an attack buff. So you don't need to stay in the circle like Bennett or just no conditions at all. Just a pure good amount of attack buff to your whole team just by using your elemental skill. The skill is also going to give a shield to the active party member. This shield is going to scale off Nicole's attack, and it's actually a pretty decent shield. I would say it's like an S tier shield. It genuinely rivals Zhongli's shield. Obviously, if you have enough attack on her, it's going to be like around that same tier, which is saying a lot. It's like one of the best shields you can get in the game. She can give you off-field damage just by using her elemental burst, and that damage is going to scale with your main DPS or the character on field, so it has nothing to do with Nicole herself. The stronger your on-field character is going to be, the stronger that damage is going to be. Another thing you need to know is that her elemental skill buff has an upgraded state. In that state, you just gain 300 extra attack, and usually get it by staying on the field for 3 seconds. So your whole team is going to get a base attack buff, and then the character on field for 3 seconds is going to get the upgraded state. But if the character is Hex Ray, then they don't need to wait 3 seconds. They're just going to get the upgraded state right away. So she does integrate a little better with Hex Rays. Also, she has a passive that's gonna buff her damage a little bit by 300% of her attack if she has another Hex Ray character on the team, which is pretty good. You probably would want to activate that for her damage to be more meaningful. But yeah, that's basically all you need to know about Nicole. She just buffs your attack, gives you a shield and some extra damage. She works better with Hex Ray characters too, but they're not necessary for her like core functionalities, and that's pretty much it. So that's what she provides. Now, for what she needs on the team for her to be more impactful, obviously the first thing she's going to need is an attack scale and main DPS. Her being able to provide attack buffs is going to be the most important thing about Nicole. So obviously a main DPS is going to be dealing like the biggest chunks of damage. Being able to take advantage out of that attack is going to be super important. The second important thing about Nicole, which makes her a little different from other supports, is that she will probably require a strong sub DPS too, who also scales with attack. As I mentioned before, one of Nicole's strongest points is that her attack buff is going to be to the whole team, not only to a single character on field, unlike Bennett. So for you to actually take advantage out of that, you'll need strong sub DPSs who also take advantage out of attack. That's going to be the type of teams where she shines better than most supports. Because for example, if you're only using Nicole to buff your on-field character, then in that case using a character like Bennett is probably just going to be the better option. Nicole's going to work too, don't get me wrong, but Bennett's buff is going to be a little better. Usually, obviously it depends on the build and stuff like that, but your average Bennett is going to be equal or better than Nicole in terms of like buffing a single character. And I know she's more comfortable and she also gives a shield and stuff like that, but I feel like she's not going to be a huge upgrade for Bennett if you're not actually taking advantage out of the fact that she buffs the whole team. So you'll need characters off field who can be buffed by attack, and they can also deal, you know, super good amounts of damage. That's going to be like the teams where Nicole shines the best in a perfect world. The last thing you might need for her team is just going to be a Hex Ray character. That's just to enable her damage to be buffed, and preferably Generally, if the main DPS is Hexray, that's gonna be good too, since they can get the buffs quicker. But generally speaking, she doesn't really actually need Hexray characters for her like core functionalities. Her attack buffs, for example, her shield, all of that is not really tied to Hexray characters. So she doesn't need them as in like an actual need, like most other Hexray supports, but it's heavily preferred for you to play Nicole with another Hexray character. But yeah, other than that, even like element requirements are not really gonna be a big problem. She doesn't even deal pyro off field, so you can literally use her in any team element and she's not gonna mess with any reactions or anything like that. She's just gonna be super flexible. She's just preferably used in a team where everyone can take advantage out of like her attack buff. That's where she shines the best, and that's where she's gonna be like obviously better than her rivals. But generally speaking, she's just an attack buffer and a shielder really, which makes her super versatile. But yeah, now that we're done with that, let's move on and get some of her team examples. Alright, so first of all, starting off with her perfect, like, best use case team for this point in the game right now. That team is probably just gonna be a Varka team where you have Varka, Nicole, Durin, and then someone like Prune. Varka and Durin are probably just gonna be like the best synergy for Nicole in general. Varka is one of the few like Hexray main DPSs, so it's gonna be able to take full advantage out of Nicole's passive just right off the bat. It's gonna be upgraded and you don't need to wait like 3 seconds or anything like that. Durin is gonna be one of her best synergies, and I would go as far to say he's honestly super important in most of her teams. Like in 90% of Nicole's teams, if you actually want her to give like full value, Durin is probably going to be necessary there, honestly. Because as I explained before, you'll need a strong sub DPS who scales better with attack for you to like maximize her actual value in the team. And Durin is going to be one of the few actual sub DPSs who can do that. I mean, in general right now, we don't really have many sub DPSs who can actually deal good damage, like actual good damage that can show up in the team numbers. It really comes down to like 3 or 4 characters, and then a lot of those characters are not going to scale with attack. So Durin is one of the few characters who can actually take advantage out of Nicole. So you'd want to put him on the team. He's going to be a great sub DPS, probably the best sub DPS in the game right now, or at least like the second best. And then Nicole's going to be able to buff him along with buffing your actual main DPS. So Durin is going to be kind of essential for Nicole to make sense, at least at this point in the game right now. Otherwise, it's not really going to matter as much, because even if she buffs like the other characters in the team, if they're not able to deal good damage on their own, it's not really going to matter. So yeah, Durin is going to be one of her best synergies. Definitely one of the best characters you want to have with your Nicole. Varka is obviously going to be pretty good. Just a main DPS scales with attack, Hexray, so it's going to work. And pairing them with Durin and then Prune is going to be probably the perfect use case for Nicole. But yeah, the main DPS doesn't really need to be a Hexray character. For example, you can use her with any Anemo DPS really. They're actually one of her best use cases, because for example, we have Xiao or Scaramouche, probably one of the most characters who can take advantage out of her right now. So you can play like Xiao, Scaramouche, and then Nicole, Durin again as like a sub DPS, probably the best in slot for that. And then just Farzan to buff the Anemo main DPSs. You can use her with like cryo DPSs, for example. So you have like a Risley team where you can have like Risley, Nicole, and then someone like Emily and Durin, for example. Emily is also going to be pretty good with Nicole, because she's also a decent sub DPS. She deals decent extra damage and she scales with attack, so that's going to be pretty synergical with Nicole. So you can see Emily quite a lot in Nicole's teams. Or Lohan, for example, is going to work too in this team, especially since there's also Hexray. Another Hexray main DPS, for example, Klee is going to work in literally the same team. So you can have Klee, Nicole, Durin, and Emily. It's just like a pure burn-in team. But yeah, usually you just want to have like a Nicole and Durin core, a main DPS who can scale good with attack, and then a flexible last team slot. But even if you don't have Durin, usually she's going to work pretty fine as like an attack buffer. I mean, her attack buff is going to be close to Bennett's. I'm not saying she's not going to work without Durin or anything like that. I'm just saying her value is going to be far from maximized. Especially if you have another sub DPS who can scale with attack. Even if they're not as strong as Durin, it's still going to give her decent value. So for example, you could use her in like a Varessa team, where you can have Varessa, Nicole, Chevreuse, and then like Fischl, for example. In this team, Nicole is just going to be buffing Varessa normally instead of Bennett, also giving her a shield and stuff like that. And then also buffing Fischl at the same time. And Fischl is going to be dealing decent damage off field, which is pretty good. Fischl's also a Hexray character, so she can activate Nicole's buff. So yeah, as long as the team doesn't really mind Electro, Fischl can usually be a great replacement for Durin if you don't have him. But yeah, at the end of the day, even if you don't want to like min-max and use like a good like sub DPS and stuff like that, she's literally usable in any team. Basically, she's just like another different Bennett. Better in some cases, but even if she's not better, she's just going to be slightly worse. So literally any team that can use Bennett, Nicole is going to be usable in that team too, and that's saying a lot. So random examples now, you can use her like a Navia team where you can have like Navia, Nicole, Shiori for example, and then Xiangling. Nicole's gonna be able to buff Navia and Xiangling together. Shiori's not gonna be able to take the buff because she doesn't really scale with attack, but it doesn't matter. You're using Nicole to buff your main DPS, and so on. Just literally endless teams. Everyone knows Bennett is one of the most flexible characters in the game, and Nicole is like a direct replacement and upgrade sometimes, but even if she's not an upgrade, she's still gonna be usable instead of Bennett in almost any team. So yeah, she's literally one of the best, most flexible characters we've seen in a while in the game, and you can definitely use her in a lot of teams. The teams I listed are probably gonna be a few of like her more optimized, perfect use cases, but she's definitely more usable in a much wider area of teams. She might not be the best in slot, but definitely usable. And with higher constellations, she's gonna make more and more sense, even if she doesn't have stronger sub DPSs, because she's also gonna be able to give you resistance shred, more attack and stuff like that. So she can take Bennett's place more often and be the best in slot as like a support for anyone who can use attack. But yeah, that was the video guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.